Okay, very important Black Swan events for September. So let's start off with what is a Black Swan? A Black Swan is an unpredictable event that is beyond what is normally expected of a situation as potentially severe consequences. Black Swan events are characterized by their extreme rarity, severe impact, and the widespread insistence that they were obviously in hindsight. Now, a Black Swan event is an extremely rare event, and severe consequences always happen to the economy, stocks, and I'm predicting crypto as well now. It cannot be predicted beforehand, or can it? And that's what I'm trying to look out for us. Though after the fact, many falsely claim it should have been predictable. Black Swan events may cause catastrophic damage to an economy by negatively impacting markets and investments. What are Black Swan events and some examples of that? All right, the collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008 financial crisis was considered a recent example of a Black Swan event. Now, along with the burst of this dot-com bubble in 2001 and 2000 and the flash crash that happened of May 2010, earlier Black Swan events include the rise of the internet and the personal computers, World War I, the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and September 11th, terrorist attacks. We also remember that in 2020, we had a pandemic. So these are Black Swan events. They are quintessential happenings in the world that the whole world basically has to pay attention to. So are there warning signs of Black Swan events? Black Swan events, by definition, is nearly impossible for anybody to see it coming, but still investors can watch a few indicators such as the Treasury yields or the CBOE volatility index, the VIX, for signs of escalating concerns among market professionals. Now, the VIX, aka the fear gauge, and there is a fear and greed index that you can also look at for both Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and the S&P 500, as well as other investments, often spikes during high periods of markets and political turmoil around the world. So, okay, so let's take a look at some Black Swan events that could and possibly one of them may happen during the month of September. All right, number one, I have the Chinese economy crashing due to a housing crisis. If you've seen anything about the housing crisis that's going on there, it is definitely got a very good chance of happening in September.
Across the past few months, if you've seen a news story about China's economy, you've probably seen pictures like this. Pictures of social unrest, people protesting outside of banks after their bank accounts were frozen, or outside the headquarters of major property developers after construction on their new homes was halted. Chinese citizens have had enough. Amidst a major debt crisis among property developers and prolonged COVID lockdowns, recently Chinese citizens have added extra fuel to China's economic fire, standing together and boycotting payments on over $300 billion worth of mortgages. What started as a small local petition has now grown to a massive freeze on mortgage payments on over 300 real estate projects in over 90 cities. And it has the Chinese government very worried. The CCP has desperately tried to suppress the spread of the movement, a move which has only fueled the protests further as footage like this hits the internet. But how has this happened? How has the seemingly unstoppable juggernaut of Chinese real estate now turned into a major economic catastrophe?
Okay, that's why it's number one. All right. What about hurricane and weather issues that affect oil or anything that could affect using weather for oil? We're going to take a look, and I'm going to show you some data concerning that this is an above normal year for hurricanes and inclement weather. So please be prepared for that as well. What about the S&P and 500 and Bitcoin falling at least 10 to 15%? I have them at 15 to 1. I did a video on wrecked timber and exactly what happens almost every year to the date. Look at what's the worst month for the S&P 500, September, and look at the last 6 years of what have happened monthly with Bitcoin in September. All right, what about the U.S. housing crash? We're already seeing a decrease in that. And when I mean crash, I mean there's some major events that happen because a bank goes under or S&L goes under, and it causes a major correction in the stock markets, which would affect Bitcoin as well. All right, what about the Chinese war against Taiwan? Previously, before Pelosi went there, this was over 100 to 1, but now for the month of September, it's dropped down to basically close to 3 to 1. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but when we say these events, I'm thinking when, not if. Actually, that's more the correct. I'm thinking that these things will happen at some point. Hopefully not my last one, which is World War III. All right. How about a resurgence of COVID? Now, China is on lockdown in 2 or 3 of their cities. What happens if this thing escapes again? I'm a teacher, and I do not want to go on lockdowns again, but I know how at least one political party would love to lock us down again and prevent children from going to school. All right. Oil or natural gas shortages. We're already seeing that in the month of September, a lot of the refineries shut down in September to clean and repair things. That can create a shortage. So that could also cause some controversy. Now, that's probably not a huge black swan event, but it is something that is unexpected. How about a political crisis like an insurgence that may happen? Now, I don't think this is, that's why I have it at 200 to 1, but with Mar-a-Lago being raided and Republicans very upset, and 86,000 new IRS agents coming to take middle-class Americans' money, and they're more armed than the country of Israel, that scares the hell out of me. All right, what about war igniting someplace else in the globe? We did see some attacks in Africa, and there are some other points. What happens if Iran, who is now starting to get politically charged again due to some of the negotiations and their oil being bought again? Who knows? Again, these are black swan events. I can't predict them, but we can say it could happen. And then finally, Russia's war ending against Ukraine. I say that's 500 to 1 that they're actually going to do it, because I think they're basically just going to go until they actually take over the country. And this may take 2 or 3 years, but I don't know. Let me know what you think as far as what are your predictions, what possibly could happen that we could not possibly remember. All right. As always, have a wonderful and blessed day.